An unlikely duo that we didn't ask for, but in the end we needed. RTJ is back, Run the Jewels, with their fourth studio album titled Run the Jewels 4. And I do mean unlikely in the most complimentary way possible, because who would have thought a southern rap legend such as Killer Mike would team up with one of the pioneers of New York experimental hip-hop in the early 2000s, LP, creating one of the most exciting, visceral, and energetic hip-hop group or hip-hop duo in, I would say, a decade. These two are an outfit that barrels towards you with exciting, energetic lyricism and braggadocio, and that's very apparent in RTJ1 and RTJ2, 2 being my favorite of the first two, but they can also deliver with heavy and political tongues and messages, and that was very apparent on their third studio album, Run the Jewels 3, which was released in 2016, and it's appropriately released considering you know who was running for president and became president essentially, to the point that they actually released one of their songs 2100 to the masses early because they feel like the citizens needed an outlet to calm down or to rebel against, and that song was the catalyst for it. And RTJ4 is no different. It was supposed to be released in June 5th, but it got pushed forward, released early due to the Black Lives Matter movement, and they feel like this is the perfect time to give out an album, give out a platform, an art form that they can go behind with and rebel with, considering these troubling times that they're in. So RTJ3 was released in 2016. It's been 4 years. This album has been a very long anticipated album, at least from my end, and to my opinion they've been releasing all of their aces in their decks, so I couldn't really see where they can go on further. Well, I'm very happy to announce that RTJ4 might probably be one of my favorite of the Run the Jewels discography. I think this is in competition with my favorite Run the Jewels album, Run the Jewels 2, but I still think that's the better album. But this is a very good album overall, very exciting album, and very cohesive, and the brevity of this album really just gives you that punching blow that it needed. This is one of the most visceral sounding albums, and also being one of the most political albums that RTJ has put out. Aptly fitting the sequel of RTJ3, Holy Camouflage, Just, Few Words from the Firing Squad, and I would even argue Ooh La La has a certain style of production that I'm not too used to hearing from LP side of things, especially for the track Holy Camouflage, which has two parts of the instrumentals, both very energetic, both very exciting and pummeling, though I do have to say I prefer the first part of the beat. Part 1 is very chaotic with this futuristic vocal sample that's been repeated and this really clunky percussion being played in the background. And I do mean clunky in the most complimentary way possible, because it shows the side of experimentation from LP, hell, even Run the Jewels at the end of the day. In terms of chemistry, there's nothing really much to say between LP and Killer Mike. I think they're brothers at this point in their career. They're finishing each other's sentences, they're finishing each other's punchlines, their hooks, their ideologies, their metaphors. It's just off the charts on how much chemistry they actually have. In terms of flows, they've switched up flows here and there. Killer Mike, I think, in here has a lot more playful flows, but still catered to that very political and very fist raise heavy sort of undertones and cadence. Feature wise, it's not as jam-packed as RTJ2 or RTJ3, but I do think in this album they've pulled some really interesting features at the end of the day. We have Pharrell, we have 2 Chainz, we have DJ Premier, and we have 2 returning guest features here. Gangsta Boo, ever since the RTJ2 album, and Rage Against the Machine's frontman himself, Zach De La Roca, returning on the track Just. And I don't know about you, but I think 2 Chainz has one of the most playful but clever but uniquely 2 Chainz verse and line. I'm cool as AC and you guys, you just wannabes. Get it? The alphabet A, B, C. Ooh, the light's on again. Get it? The alphabet A, B, C, air conditioner, wannabes. And this track, Out of Sight, Holy Camouflage, Yankee and the Brave, Ooh La La, sets a tone for the album for the braggadocio part. It really makes you want to grab a hammer and smash the windows. But they also swing their sort of rebellious and very heavily political stances on these tracks as well. It's scammer bliss when you put in villains in charge of shit. All of us targeted, all we doing is arguing. Pardon them as they work until every pocket's been picked and soul been harvested. I'm ready to mob on these fucking charlatans. I got 1 round left, 100 cops outside. I could shoot at them or put one between my eyes. Choose the latter, it don't matter, it ain't suicide. And if the news say it was, that's a goddamn lie. I can't let the pigs kill me, I got too much pride. And I meant it when I said it, never take me alive. But their braggadocio sound and delivery is not only energetic, fun, but also political. They can also throw in a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor there that is really enjoyable to listen to. It's the funniest shit, finally the money up, and print on the kid and the planet hit skids. Living in a valley of flames like I win. Skyline ablaze in a Bob Ross pick. And I want to go back to the track Yankee and the Brave, not as a song, though I think the song is absolutely amazing. It's pummeling, it's energetic. Again, it really gets me in the mood of picking up a hammer and just smashing everything on sight. I want to take Yankee and the Brave as a concept. In Instagram, I can't remember if it was LP or Killer Mike, one of them said that Yankee and the Brave is a concept of a TV show. Yankee being New York, where LP is from, Braves being Atlanta, where Killer Mike is from, and having this sort of character of this rebellious robbers or whatnot. It sort of sets to the tone to the album that it is sort of like a chaotic TV show that these two are playing this rebellious anti-heroes, and that sort of permeates all throughout the track list here. And it ends on that as well, which we'll get into that later. Now switching gears to a more serious tone in the track list. I think Killer Mike sets the tone immediately when he says this following line. We accept the role of the villains because we've been villainized. From Goonies vs. E.T. onwards, LP and Killer Mike is here to give you brutally honest opinions on political and social issues. They're mostly criticizing a society that only adheres to the rich and taking away from the poor, as well as the corrupted police officers that runs it. They also dabble in racial inequalities, and that's very apparent on the track Walking in the Snow. And Walking in the Snow has this really great, sassy, energetic, and attitude-driven hooks by 3-6 Mafia's own Gangsta Boo, and a really skeletal, simple production by LP, but with some great percussion elements into it. It's simple, it's not all layered and whatnot, but I think that's the point here, because what I took from this track is that they just don't want to give you with any BS whatsoever. They just want to give you straight to the point what their opinions about racial inequalities. And I love LP's line when he says, "This the illmatic of turning your face into fucker foie gras. I'm not so sure opportunity's knocking. It's probably the law." Fucker foie gras, who would say that other than LP himself? And just to carry on for a bit on Walking in the Snow, I love Gangsta Boo's hook, not only, like I mentioned before, about delivery, but I think the message she's portraying here. How, as a person of color, has to navigate through life through the unfairness, the trials and tribulation of white privilege, hence the snow line metaphor there. And speaking of hard social and political stances, no track upholds that stature more than the track Just featuring Pharrell and Zach De La Rocha. But I'm not going to lie, I was kind of hoping Pharrell would do a verse because I was really curious on what he would do in this sort of dynamic between Run the Jewels and Zach De La Rocha. What flows would he use? What cadence would he use? And what sort of techniques would he use to compete with these three juggernauts? I don't know, I think I was just really curious what he would do instead of just a hook. But I think his presence is short, it's poignant, delivering a message of being a slave to an already set and organized unfair system. Mastered economics because you took yourself from squalor. Mastered academics because your grades say you a scholar. Mastered Instagram because you can instigate a follow. Look at all these slave masters posing on your dollar. Killer Mike and LP goes into very vivid detail on their distaste of the system being run by capitalistic, racist, greedy, selfish leaders, even if every action they're doing is for the betterment of themselves, for their family, for others, getting their hard-earned success and money only to be posed by another figure. And your country getting ran by a casino owner, pedophile sponsor, all these fucking racist bastards. And I told you once before that you should kill your master. Now that's the line that's probably gonna get my ass assassinated. Kill Your Masters referring to the RTJ4 track, self-titled Kill Your Masters, and I think that has been a very larger than life movement ever since that track and that album was released. And it's been referenced here, and it's really uphold to the RTJ spirit. Man, you better duck out, get the bag, and then bug out. Try to run home, you might run your luck out. Because just when your base is loaded, they'll roll a grenade in the dugout. And going back to the beat for a bit, I love the vocal melodies that's been repeated all throughout the track here. It adds to the very haunting tone of the message in the track itself, or maybe appropriately I should say is it adds to the tone of seriousness and helplessness the nation is actually in. It's simple, it's effective, it gets its point across. And Zach De La Rocha, he always kills a verse on these Run the Jewels album, and this one is no different. and his added energetic, screeching, pummeling screams in the hook really revs your energy for this giant revolution. So I'm questioning this quest for things as a recipe for early death threatening, but the breath in me is a weaponry, for you is just money. How can we be the peace when the beast gonna reach for the worst, tear all the flesh of the earth, stage set for a deafening reckoning? Though if I were to nitpick for a bit here, this is not my favorite Zach De La Roca verse from his Run the Jewels feature. That still will always go to his verse and hook on the track Close Your Eyes and Count to Fuck on Run the Jewels 2. But I think his presence is needed here. It's the needed knockout blow to a very heavy and layered political and social track here. I also like the track Never Look Back being a more personal cut on the track list, adding a bit more dimension to the seriousness on the latter half of this album. LP talks about how he is brought up from a dysfunctional and a bit alcoholic family from his father, and Killer Mike talks about how he was heavily embedded in drug dealings back in the day. But at the end of the day, I like the message here is not to look back, not to look at the future, but just be grateful for gratitude, as Mr. Motherfucking Esquire say in the interlude there. Like I mentioned before, Killer Mike and LP is sort of these two brothers anti-hero dynamic, but I don't know why it's in here where I felt it the most than in any other RTJ albums, at least in the way of concept of Yankee and the Brave and how they ran with it. And that's nowhere more apparent than the track The Ground Below and A Few Words from the Firing Squad, with my favorite being A Few Words from the Firing Squad. I think what really sells this track for me is LP's visceral experimental production. The beat switch at the end is such a rush and it's such a slap in the face that I absolutely enjoyed. And the repetition of Yankee and the Brave at the end is infectious. It's catchy that I can't help myself but sing and chant till this day. And the crescendo of the instrumental is unlike any of the beats I've heard this year. Really, really well put together by LP. And in here, Killer Mike and LP have a bit of self-reflection on the perilous journey that they have went through and how they are here to stay regardless of the very depressing and corrupted environment that they are living in. They are here with Killer Mike's Grand Buick National and their assault rifles ready to shoot and take on the world by the neck and freeing the trapped. In terms of negative, I didn't really like the track Pulling the Pin. I didn't think Mavis Staples' hook was all that hot or all that good. I felt that it was sort of discombobulated in a sense. And the flows that Killer Mike and LP chose for this track, I don't know, it felt a bit stale to my liking, but I do understand the messaging here about how their hearts, about how themselves is a grenade waiting to explode, hence the title Pulling the Pin, on how we as a society need to pull it and say enough is enough and fight for our true freedom. Not only on the aspect of physical freedom, but as well as spiritual freedom. But after being hit by an album with a lot of poignant cuts and direct anthemic fist raisers, I thought that this track sort of held back the momentum for the track list a bit here. But I'm not complaining. This track is by no means trash or terrible. It just didn't sort of hold up to the same level as the other tracks that we've heard before. So that's my thought on the Run the Jewels album, Run the Jewels 4. Yeah, I thought this was a really great album. Not my favorite. I still think RTJ2 is my favorite, but I do think this is going up there. I think, again, it's because of LP's very experimental and very clunky, in the best way possible, production here. And I got really nothing to say about it. Killer Mike and LP has been killing the game ever since 2013, so it's been not 2020, so 7 years now, and I hope they continue their success. It's kind of amazing considering how late and how old they are, and I do mean in the most intriguing way possible. Killer Mike has been around since Outkast. LP has been around since the early 2000s, late 90s with Company Flow, Def Jux, and all that. It's really, really interesting how far these two have come together, and I look forward to whatever they're gonna release in the future. So that's my thought. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to share this if you do like this review, and please don't forget to follow my Instagram account for more content, and I will see you soon for more reviews, think pieces and whatnots, and maybe collaboration reviews with my friends or my brothers again. So again, that's it from me. Peace!